a suit and tie and get your hair cut way up high. Get yourself a lawyer, son. You're gonna need a real good one.
Here he is, our real good lawyer, David Whiting, is back with you. Our number is 1300 222 774, and I've got 3 lines free for you. That's a rarity if you'd like to get some free legal advice. David, good morning.
Good morning, Virginia.
You've been out there looking at the frocks from the Met Gala, haven't you? That's what you've been doing.
Where were they? I saw them in the paper yesterday, I think.
No, it's happening live right now.
Oh, okay. I knew I'd done something wrong.
They were no, not at all. Hey, we had one bit of homework, and it's about who has to wear a seatbelt, and to which, of course, I reply with high dudgeon, everyone all the time. Not true?
No, not true. The road rules are 588 pages long.
I've not read them all, David.
No, and I can't say I haven't either. 12 of them relate to the wearing of seatbelts and who has to and who doesn't. And while there are exemptions for police, there are exemptions for people in an ambulance either receiving or giving medical treatment. But you're exempt from wearing a seatbelt if a person is engaged in door-to-door delivery or collection of goods or the collection of waste or garbage, and is required to get in and out of the vehicle at frequent intervals, and the vehicle is not travelling over 25 kilometres an hour.
So does that describe our complainant who called in?
It does. He says he drove 5 metres from one driveway to the next and got nicked in between.
So
I don't know that
now?
you could drive at 25 kilometres per hour in that space time. I would have said yes. So the other problem he had was he'd already paid the fine.
Yeah.
And once you've paid the fine, there is nowhere to go. But if he hadn't paid the fine, then a logbook of his deliveries required on the day would have been evidence as to where he was and when he was there, and that would have been his defence.
That would have covered him.
Yes.
All right. So for all delivery drivers listening this morning, you are covered if you're travelling below that kilometre threshold.
Below 25.
Below 25. Shouldn't imagine even the fastest sports car could get you that fast in that short period.
Yeah, and normally deliveries are not done in sports cars, so you could be right. Yep.
It's a pity. 1300 222 774. All right, let's get going. What are your problems and how can we solve them? Eve in Walkerville, go ahead.
Hi, Virginia. Big fan. Good morning. Good morning, David.
Good morning.
My brother passed away in 2004. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep, okay. And the lawyer was supposed to do the executor was supposed to finalise the will. It's been 16 years and I'm still trying to get the violin back, even though she legally has to do it. And basically,
Sorry, what violin?
I've spent pretty much $26,000 trying to get it back.
So this is a complaint against the executor for failing to administer an estate over 16 years. And is there a particular... So the violin was left to you under the will, was it?
It was given to my uncle until I reached a mature age. Sorry, I'm on the radio. You can't see me doing my fingers inverted commas, but yeah.
And was it... So the will says that the violin goes to your uncle, who must then pass it on to you. So is not the fault with your uncle rather than with the executor? Because the way you've described it to me is the will says give the violin to X to mind until such time as Eve attains the age of whatever it was, and it's the uncle who's failed, not the executor.
Right, and so does that mean that I have to sue my uncle instead of the executor to try and get it back?
Well, neither of us... Well, I haven't read the will, but I've got one will at the moment that says I leave all of my jewellery for my granddaughter to be held by my son until such time as she attains the age of 20, and in that particular case, their claim is against would be the son, so it's the uncle who's breached.
Have you spoken to the uncle? Have you said, where's the violin and can I have it?
I have. He said, no, you can't have it back, and I think he might be in a care home and under state care.
Okay.
So
has he said why you can't have it back?
Yes, he said it's because it's my great-grandmother's. He was jealous that it wasn't left to him in the will and it was left to me.
Is it a particularly precious violin?
It is. Unfortunately, the executor of the estate didn't actually write what it is or anything.
And what is it?
It's about 150 years old. Look, I couldn't tell you what it was, to be honest, what brand it is, but it's just a big quagmire.
So is your uncle in a care home?
I'm not sure. The executor of the estate told me that I had to hire somebody to go and find him, a PI essentially, because she never tried to get it back for me either.
So why would you, if you think he's subject to an administration order and being looked after, I mean, I would be, and you knew the area in which he lived?
I still know.
So why would you not ring the aged care facilities in that area to see if you can put some time and effort into locating him, and then ring them about how you might find out who's looking after his affairs? So if it's state trustees...
That's a really good idea.
All right, I just don't want you to spend any more money than you need to, and that's where I'd start.
Could Eve just go to the state trustees with this man's name and say, I understand he's in your care, I have an issue?
Yes. Are you able to confirm that you hold an administration order for him? And they'll say yes or no.
And then you can issue whatever papers you might need to in relation.
At which stage you go to state trustees and say, here's a copy of the will. I need you to give effect to clause whatever it is. The executor says my uncle has the... violin. I want the violin delivered.
How does that sound, Eve?
That sounds so good. Thank you, Virginia.
Good luck. Yeah, let us know how it goes. That's a fascinating situation to be in, and not a good one. Belinda in Hoppers Crossing, how can we help?
Oh, hi, Belinda. Hi, David. Thank you for taking my call. I'm just phoning on behalf of my daughter who's quite distraught, and I'm quite angry myself, so excuse my emotions. She did go through IVF and her embryos were due to expire soon. She did receive a letter in January, I think this year, telling her that the embryos were due to expire in June and to whether you wanted them destroyed or whether you wanted them to continue. She has since found out that she was supposed to receive 2 letters because she had 2 cycles. The first cycle expired in mid-April. She never got that letter.
Did she respond to the first letter?
She's about to respond to the second letter, which is a June one, so that's still active. But the April one, she never got the letter. There wasn't a follow-up letter. There wasn't a follow-up phone call. There wasn't a follow-up email.
And did they destroy the embryos?
They did.
Have they destroyed both lots or the first lot?
No, just the April one.
Right, because the time under what their records will show is the letter they sent expired.
Yes, but she never got the letter, so she wasn't aware.
Has she changed address or done any of those things?
No, nothing's changed. She got the second letter okay. The first one must have... Who knows?
Well, we can't replace the embryos, Belinda.
No. So
and there will be an offence under the legislation. And you, if you want to, I would be ringing the Health Complaints Commissioner and see whether that might get you to the point where you can have a proper discussion about what went wrong and how.
Because, and they're actually, forgive me for not knowing the name of the authority off the top of my head, but there is actually an authority that covers this in particular in relation to reproductive technology.
Yep.
So you can actually go to them as well. I wonder if it is VARTA or if it might be another, but don't go off what I'm saying. Belinda, does your daughter need or want to use these embryos, or is she completed having her family?
No, she was going through chemo for cancer, so she was looking to start a family.
How many embryos does she have in the remaining lot that's still
well,
the subject?
She had the majority in the first one, which was 7, and she's only got 2 in the June one, so she's...
Right. It's a heartbreaking situation. I completely understand. Belinda, as David says, they can't be brought back, but if you and your daughter have the fortitude for it, you can take a legal action, as David suggests.
So that was a health ombudsman, was that right, Dave?
Yes, the health complaints.
Okay.
Yes.
Health complaints, yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that story, Belinda, and thanks for calling in. I hope that's of some help. Naomi in Mornington. Go ahead, Naomi.
Oh, good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I was in a very minor car accident on Friday afternoon, driving down a 3-lane highway in the left-hand lane, and a car came out of a car park and T-boned me essentially, but only got like my rear passenger panel. So the damage was relatively minor, but probably still a couple of $1,000 of cosmetic stuff, paint, crack light cover, that kind of thing. We stopped on the highway, it was busy traffic, all that kind of stuff. So we stopped quickly. I jumped out, took some photos, got his name, got his phone number, didn't take a photo of his licence. I've found out since that I should have, and didn't ask for his address. So I rang my insurer, gave them all the details. They said, yep, no problem at all. We just need his address to proceed. So I've tried calling him since, and he's turned off his phone for the entire weekend, and I haven't been able to contact him again. And I'm just wondering where that leaves me legally, as my insurance company have intimated that I will be liable for $1,800 excess if I can't provide an address.
Naomi, do your photos include the registration number of the vehicle?
They do, and I've looked it up on Vic Roads, and it is currently registered. But obviously, I would. The driver of the vehicle has an obligation to give you their details, and that's name and address. While it's really nice to have a photo of their licence, they're not actually obliged to give it. So, right. So I don't have his address.
I understand that, but I'm split in two. The no right to the driver's licence, right to name and address. And the advantage of taking the picture of the licence is it's written down somewhere. You could I would go to the police, and I would say you had an accident, and he didn't give you his name and address. He gave you a name and phone number, and you can make a report at that point and see whether the police will help you. My view is they will. My view is that the police will contact him.
Okay, all right, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for calling in. And to our earlier caller about the whose daughter's embryos were destroyed, Belinda. Yes, VARTA, the Victorian Assisted Reproductive Treatment Authority, would have something to say about that as well. So, of course, the Health Ombudsman, but going to VARTA actually might take out a link in the chain and get you sort of closer to the matter.
I think it would, because they register and licence the IVF companies.
Yeah. So, they're a well-known and well-established authority. Glenn in Dandenong. Good morning, Glenn.
Morning. Just a quick question. When can an Australian bank refuse to take Australian currency?
Has a bank done that to you?
Yes, I went to deposit $5 worth of coins and some notes into an account a couple of weeks ago, and they took...
Can I ask you, Glenn, what were the coins? Were they brown?
Yeah.
There you go. It's not legal tender.
Hang on.
Yeah, they told me.
Oh, no, it's not.
No, it's been demonetised.
That's right, yes.
So it was, the Reserve Bank will take it from you, but you've got to go into the Reserve Bank because they promised they'll keep it.
Glenn, you were supposed to get rid of your copper years ago. What have you been doing hanging on to it?
No. These are 20 and 10s and 5s, but they're tarnished.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I know we thought they were coppers, like 1s and 2s.
Yeah, no.
Oh.
There's no basis for rejecting it just because they don't like the colour, Glenn.
Well, then maybe you could give them a clean and take them back and see if that works.
Well, you could go to one of the You could go to one of the branches that has automatic counting machines for coins.
Glenn, did you have them counted into bags?
$5 worth. It was not really. No, it was, as I said.
Oh, well, that might be why. No, what a bank will do is it'll give you the bags and it'll say you go home and count it. They're not going to count it for you. Count it into bags. Tell us what's in the bag. So that's $1.20 worth of 20-cent pieces or whatever it is. They'll weigh them and check that you're right, and then they'll bank them. So if you just went in with an armful of coins, they don't want to know you.
$5 worth. $5 worth. Yeah, okay. They have very short arms, Glenn.
Anyway, Glenn, that's it.
Try not most branches, but many banks have branches that have coin counting machines, and you just tip the coins in and they give you a certificate to take to the teller. Why don't you try and find one of those?
That's a good idea. Throw it in the machine. I'm being told again by Roger in Hampton to shut up. They're not calling to speak to me. They're calling to speak to you. What do you always say, David?
It's your show, Virginia.
Exactly right. Tony in Devonport. Hi, Tony. What's going on?
Good morning, Virginia and David. Just an update on an issue I had a couple of weeks ago about a credit for accommodation I received when the first lot of lockdowns happened.
Mm-hmm. That's right. You booked at a hotel. You weren't able to travel. And what they did was they gave you a credit with an expiry date, which at that stage you accepted. How did you end up?
Well, as I said, I gave the call and they said, no, you can't use it. It's been expunged. because you didn't give us a call back in December 2020.
Yep.
And I said to them, well, at the time, my business was in trouble. The COVID was around. My father was in hospital.
Yes, but what happened? What's the upshot, Tony?
The upshot is that they said, no, it's been expunged and it's back into the company and we've got accommodation. I said, no, I don't want accommodation at full price.
Oh, so they're happy to give you... Oh, so, okay. They just no credit, but would you like to buy anyway? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't use my credit. It's gone.
And did you pay, if possible, did you pay on a credit card? What did you do?
Well, I paid on a credit card and I went to the bank and I said, unfortunately, because it's more than 90 days, it's nearly 18 months, they can't do anything about it.
I think that will depend upon the credit card company. What you might do is search on Google for... I will next week I'll give you the time frames for disputing Visa and disputing MasterCard, because I can tell you, and American Express, because I can tell you that the card rules are often different to the bank rules.
That will be useful information. Thank you so much. Tony in Mount Waverley, go ahead.
I'm involved in a divorce, and the lawyer has indicated that mediation is demanded by law. It changed last year, he said, and it's $10,000 for a third party to manage it, plus the legal fees for both parties. Is that correct?
The answer would be I don't know, Tony, but I'll find out. A significant number of matters settle at mediation. There are normally 4 sets of costs that everybody incurs. There would be the costs charged by the mediator, there would be the costs charged by the place where the mediation takes place, and there's your representation and the other party's representation. So, but I can't see that the first 2 would ever cost $10,000.
Well, I've been told it's $10,000 a day for the mediator.
Well, then can I say you've got a very expensive mediator. You must have a very wealthy marriage, Tony.
I don't have either.
Okay. Look, I do quite a bit of mediations in the administration and probate sphere. I would have thought most mediators would cost somewhere between $4,000 and $6,000, $10,000 to me. And what they do is they read all of the paperwork beforehand.
That's right.
And then try and get people to find a midpoint.
So what's Tony's next step?
Tony's next step would be to say to his lawyer, I want you to give me a choice of mediators and their prices. Okay.
All right. And then maybe you can get a choice there. Good luck. David in Druin, how can we help?
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. My wife and I bought a house at the beginning of last year, and we purchased from an agent who was also leasing it at the time. So it was tenanted, and the building inspector could physically inspect everything properly. When we moved in 6 months later, the leasing agent doing the final lease inspection said, "Oh, so you're aware of the history of this property?" Which we weren't. They pointed out some broken things that we hadn't been told about by the agent who sold to us, even though they were clearly aware. We then found out from the local police that the house had been raided in late 2019 and was found to have hydroponic cannabis growing in 7 rooms.
Oh. Yes.
Yes, which caused issues to plumbing and tiling that are being poorly patched by the owner before selling.
Right.
We're now up to sort of $20,000 or $30,000 to fix the bathrooms upstairs. We wonder if we've got any cause of action against either the building inspector who should have found this stuff or the vendor or the real estate agent who didn't disclose the crime that had happened at the property.
Okay. The building inspector is there for a very specific purpose, looking for defects that are major and structural. Now, the fact that a pipe might not be working properly or that the tiles aren't put on as well as they ought to have been do not constitute structural defects. So I don't see that you've got a claim against the building inspector the way you've described it. The Australian consumer law rights in relation to deceptive and misleading conduct do not apply to the vendor. You may have a complaint, you may have an action against the agent on the basis that the property was misrepresented.
Well, you've spoken about that before, David, about just what you should be expected to be told, for example, if there was a murder in the building that you're being sold.
Yes, but unfortunately, Virginia, that doesn't impose any obligations on the vendor.
Right.
Oh, sorry, it doesn't give any rights to the purchaser. That's the problem. There's a provision in the Sale of Land Act that says that you've got to say these things, and if you don't...
And would that include the fact that the house had been the subject of a police raid and growing an illegal substance?
I've been involved in the acquisition of a house where someone was cooking, so they're cooking meth. Now, that has a long-term impact on the property and in fact, renders it uninhabitable for a period of time.
Right.
And so that would be an absolute failure. But
not
cannabis,
this one?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yep.
So what happens now?
So I think you've got an action against the agent for deliberately concealing the facts, David.
Yeah, cool. And we would just go about that by finding a lawyer and...
Find a lawyer and IDOT and T-Cross and see whether... It's unlikely you've got a claim against the vendor, but I would be exploring that at the same time.
Good luck, and we hope that goes well for you. Emma, in Footscray, what's going on?
Good morning. I'm ringing in regard to a workplace issue I had in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I had a breakdown at work in 2019, and had sick leave for the remainder of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And then the following year in 2020, my contract was still valid, but I was still on sick leave recovering from mental health problems. And to return to work, I had to go through a number of steps, such as meeting with the OHS department and also having an independent medical assessment by an independent psychiatrist. When I undertook the assessment, obviously I didn't know him, and he took quite a crude assessment with very direct questions about my mental health. And at the end of it, he said normally you would get a copy of my report, meaning his report, of what I think how things should move forward and if you're ready to return to work. I then received from my workplace, which is a charitable research organisation.
You don't have a copy of the report. Is that the question?
That's right. And the reason they cited was legal privilege.
Okay. There's a... you go and see a lawyer to get some advice. So if you think of the client, the lawyer, and then the expert on the other side, the client goes to the lawyer and say, I need some advice. The report will have been prepared for the lawyer for the purpose of giving advice, so you have no right to the report unless your employer proposes to rely on it. So if your employer is not going to use the report, then you have no right to it.
Well, they cited that because of what was written in the report, that they would terminate my contract, and I wasn't. They paid me out.
Well, then in terms of your issue with your employer, if your contract's been paid out, you don't have anywhere else to go. Unless
but I still feel like I've been discriminated against because I had a mental health issue and they wouldn't allow me to see what was in that report, which was based on their reason for determining.
I understand that, but if you had an ongoing employment entitlement and they got a medical report like that and then as a result decided to terminate you, you would be entitled to a copy of the report. But what they've done is they've paid out your contract to the end of its time, and in those circumstances, it's almost as if your contract's not been renewed and there's no automatic right of renewal, and it simply has been, you've just got your money a little earlier than you otherwise would have.
But what about an unfair dismissal action?
No, her contract's been paid out. So she would have to argue, sorry Emma, talking about you like this, but Emma would need to argue that the contract would have been ongoing but for. How long did you work there, Emma?
10 plus years.
Then I would say yes. I had a friend who was terminated after 21 years with the same employer on contracts. They just paid him out and said bad luck. Now, when I looked at that...
Before his contract ended.
They paid out his contract. They said, we're not going to renew your contract. It runs out in 3 months. We're paying you next week.
Yeah. So my contract, when they terminated me, my contract was due to expire 2 days later.
Yes.
And then they paid out my annual leave.
Yeah, I think they're the rules, Emma, but again, I'll have another look. Right.
All right, maybe have another look and update that, but thank you. And Emma, thanks for calling in. Great to see you, David.
See ya.
David Whiting there.